Hello.
Do you want to put your camera on?
Yeah.
So basically, what we'll do, it's going to be easy for you because I know nothing about film processing. So simple. This is literally going to be Riaz Ahmed's hacks on film processing at home.
Yeah.
Because for me, I remember going to Luton Sixth Form and seeing the whole setup, and it looks so complicated.
The thing with that is that you go to these places, the dark rooms.
Yeah.
And actually, the film photographer of today doesn't need all of that.
Okay.
The reason being is it costs a lot to have a full dark room. The equipment, you can get it for cheap, but everything adds up. There's so many things you need to run a dark room. But for you to be a photographer who shoots on film, you don't necessarily need a dark room. The reason being is the dark room needs to be blacked out because of the process in which you get your 35mm slides or 120 slides projected onto a sheet. So when you're doing actual prints, you need a dark room because there's no current way of doing it during the daylight.
Yeah.
But it's not a far-fetched idea.
So just before you get into the whole process of it, if you were to set up your own sort of makeshift studio at home, what would be basic things, elements that you would need to put that all together?
Aside from printing, from going from taking the photographs in a canister and then having one of those canisters in your hand and then to develop it into strips, you don't need a lot. You need a tank, you need the chemicals, you need a sink to work at, and some way to manage temperature. And those sort of things, it sounds complicated, but it's actually very simple. It's not very hard to learn. There's videos on YouTube about all sorts of different types of chemicals to use. And most chemicals come in sets of 6. You mix them into 2 different sets of chemicals. So it's almost like a 2-step, 3-step process.
Yeah.
And usually, depending on whether you have temperature control or not, it could be easily from maybe 20 minutes a roll to maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes a roll. So it's not actually difficult. But in terms of film photography and people getting into it and worrying about the whole development side of things, it's not a problem because usually in every town there's a lab or join a community of film enthusiasts or shooters, and who does it from home. Like myself, I've been during the lockdown, I've been developing film for other people who've dropped it off to me, and then I develop it and I scan it for them at a rate that's just a little bit cheaper than most labs. Because I've just had the time to do it. And there's a lot of people out there who work with, small groups of film photographers who and usually go to the same guy, so you get a little cool community like that in film. And the developing side of things is really easy. If you have a little bit of money, then it's really easy because, once you get your tank, you get yourself your little darkroom bag, you get yourself the chemicals, and the rest is easy. If you have those basics, you can at least jump in and develop, some roles as and when you shoot it. And there is expense tied to it.
Talking about the elements, you're saying about the chemicals, the tank, and all that stuff you need. Where do you, on a budget, get all that equipment?
The industry standard of equipment is already set because of years and years of this. There's a history of film photography. So, Patterson is usually the company you go to for this sort of thing. And for a tank, a bag, and a few other utensils, you're looking at about £100, maybe £120 just to get all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's as simple as that. My first camera cost me £20. And actually, it looks a lot like this. Same brand, but slightly different.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic.
And it cost me £20 to buy it from eBay. And then just one roll of film, just anything could cost you maybe £5 to £10. And if you budget yourself to put £5 or £10 aside every month to buy yourself a film, you've got yourself a camera and now you're shooting stuff on a roll. If it's one roll a month, it sounds a little in comparison to someone who maybe shoots 1,000 pictures on their digital phone, digital camera. It's actually still quite a lot, because I went to the zoo the other day and I only took 17 pictures. Imagine a day to day when you're not necessarily going out
Yeah.
fancy places, you're looking at things, you're seeing things in a different light. Once you start, obviously, shooting on film, you start to see things a little bit different.
Because you're having to choose your shots a bit better,
Exactly.
as opposed to when you're digital, you can take like 100
Exactly.
shots. Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will only develop once a year. I mean, I personally I develop every month, so I can stay current with social media and things like that. We're posting stuff I've shot on film and process, and I'm working with a lot of different cameras at the moment. So, there's a lot of testing involved in reviewing. But for someone who wants to get into a hobby or something on the side of their digital photography, all you need is one camera, one roll of film, keep shooting, and every month you put a little bit of money aside for your developing kit.
Yeah.
End of your first year, you'll have your money to buy your developing tank, get your changing bag, get your chemicals, and at the end of that year, you get all your rolls. You spend a day in a developing room, and at the end of that day, you'll have all your everything you've done in a year in front of you. And that's as simple as it is. And it sounds complicated, from a distant away, but it's once you get into it, it's actually quite easy.